dark bottle tips over a cracked garden bed, and the soil drinks it like it has been waiting all season. That is the image that makes people stop. A cheap liquid, a dead bed, and the promise that worms will come back. But the strange part is this: the bottle does not bring worms back by itself. If the bed is still hot, bare, dry, and hungry underneath, the liquid disappears, the cracks return, and the worms stay away. The real promise is safer and more useful. This liquid can help only when it becomes part of a habitat. Worms do not come back because of magic. They come back when dead beds finally become a place they can survive. That one sentence changes the whole method, because most gardeners notice the missing worms only after the bed has already gone quiet. They dig into the soil and find dry crumbs instead of dark strands. They water, and the surface gets wet, but the next afternoon it looks tired again. They add compost, but it seems to vanish without changing the feel of the bed. They turn over a shovel of soil, and there is no movement, no castings, no soft smell, no sign that anything is working below the surface. That feels like a worm problem, but it is usually a habitat problem. A worm does not look at a raised bed the way a gardener does. A gardener sees soil, plants, and empty space that needs fixing. A worm is responding to conditions. Is there moisture it can move through? Is there organic material soft enough to eat? Is the surface protected from heat? Is the soil loose enough for air? Are there harsh salts, dry crusts, or sudden swings that make the bed unsafe? If the answer is no, a worm is not being stubborn. It is surviving somewhere else. This is where the viral version of the trick gets misleading. It makes it sound as if the dark liquid is a worm magnet. Pour it once, and the dead bed wakes up. But worms do not appear from nowhere. If there are no worms nearby, no eggs, no connected soil life, and no decent moisture path, a bottle cannot invent them. And even if worms are close, they will not stay in a bed that becomes dry again 2 days later. The liquid can help with one part of the problem. It can add a small amount of easy organic food and moisture to the soil surface. Something like a mild molasses water or a gentle compost extract can feed microbial activity near the top layer. That can make the first inch or two of soil a little more inviting when the rest of the system is also right. But it is not the meal. It is not the house. It is not the roof. It is not the long-term food supply. The cheap material is not the secret. The process is. Think about a bed that worms avoid. The surface is bare. Sun hits it all day. Every watering lands hard, then runs off or evaporates. The top forms a crust. Under that crust, the soil is either powdery dry or compacted into tight clods. Compost sits on top like a decoration instead of becoming part of the system. Leaves are removed. Grass clippings are thrown away. The bed is kept clean, but it is also kept hungry. A clean, bare bed can look controlled while quietly becoming harder for life to enter. That is the contradiction. The bed may not be dead in a dramatic way. It may still grow something, but it does not behave like a living habitat. Water does not linger evenly. Organic matter does not stay long enough to become food. The surface gets too hot. The soil has no blanket. So the gardener sees fewer worms and thinks, I need to attract worms. The better question is, what would make a worm stay? The first answer is moisture, but not flooding. Worms need damp soil because their bodies lose moisture easily. But soggy, airless soil is not better. A bed that swings between bone-dry and muddy is not stable habitat. You want the feel of a wrung-out sponge several inches down. Not shiny wet. Not dusty. Just evenly damp enough that soil holds together when squeezed, then breaks apart with a little pressure. That is why pouring any liquid onto dry, cracked soil is not enough. Very dry soil often sheds water at first. The liquid runs into cracks, follows channels, or wets only the top crust. The gardener thinks the bed has been fed, but the root zone and worm zone may still be dry. Before using any cheap organic liquid, the bed needs a slow drink of plain water, not a blast from the hose. A gentle soaking that gives the dry soil time to open. Then the organic liquid can be applied as a light drench, not as a heavy syrup. A safe way to think about it is simple. Use 1 gallon of water as the carrier. Add only a small splash of unsulfured molasses, roughly a teaspoon to a tablespoon, and stir until it disappears. Or use a mild extract made from finished compost. Not rotting kitchen scraps, not greasy waste, not salty broth, and not anything that smells sour or rotten. The liquid should smell earthy or mildly sweet, never foul. Then pour it over already moist soil, not dust. That detail matters. When the soil is pre-moistened, the liquid spreads more evenly instead of disappearing into cracks. But the next step matters even more. Cover it. A bare bed after a soil drench is like leaving food on a plate in the sun. It dries, overheats, and loses the condition you were trying to create. After the liquid goes down, add a thin layer of finished compost, then cover with shredded leaves, straw, old grass clippings that have not been treated with herbicide, or another clean organic mulch. 2 inches is often enough to change the surface. 3 inches may help in hotter weather, as long as it is kept away from plant stems. This is the part most gardeners skip. They pour the liquid and wait for the miracle. But the cover is what keeps the bed from snapping back to dead. The mulch protects the moisture. The compost adds real food. The liquid gives a small, quick push. The shade keeps the surface cooler. Together, they begin to create the kind of place soil organisms can use. Not instantly, not perfectly, not in every bed. But now the method has logic. If the bed is already planted, do not pour the liquid right against the stems. Apply it between plants, where the feeder roots and soil life can meet it without soaking crowns or creating a wet collar around the plant. Then tuck compost and mulch into the open spaces. Keep the mulch pulled back a little from the stems, especially on young seedlings. The goal is to cover the soil, not bury the plant. If the bed is empty, the method is easier. Moisten the bed first. Apply the diluted liquid. Spread a shallow layer of compost. Cover with mulch. Leave it alone long enough for the top layer to soften. Then check it with your hand before you disturb it again. The test is not whether worms appear the next morning. The test is whether the bed starts acting less hostile. Push a trowel into the soil after a few days of steady moisture. Does it slide in easier? Or does it still hit a dry plate? Lift the mulch. Does the soil under it feel cooler than the bare edge? Squeeze a handful. Does it hold together briefly, then crumble? Or does it fall apart like dust? Smell it. Does it smell earthy or sour and stale? Those signs matter, because worms are not the first proof. Habitat is the first proof. Worms often follow the conditions. They are not the condition itself. And that is why the wrong liquids can make the bed worse. Do not pour old cooking oil, salty soup, dairy waste, meat rinse, sugary sludge, alcohol, or anything rotten into a raised bed. It may be organic in the broad sense, but that does not make it good soil food. Salt can stress plants and soil life. Grease can coat soil particles. Rotting liquids can turn sour and attract pests. Too much sugar can create a short microbial rush that burns through oxygen near the surface, especially in wet, compacted soil. More is not better here. A small diluted input under cover can help. A thick repeated pour onto struggling soil can create a different problem. This is also why the $2 idea works best as a starter, not a routine addiction. If every week becomes another bottle, the gardener has missed the point. The bed does not need constant tricks. It needs steady habitat, compost, leaves, plant roots, gentle watering, less bare soil, less violent drying, less unnecessary turning. The liquid is useful because it teaches the eye to look lower. A gardener sees cracked soil and wants a fast fix. The soil is asking for a protected surface. A gardener sees no worms and wants to attract them. The soil is asking for food and moisture. A gardener sees plants wilting by late afternoon and wants to water harder. The soil may be asking for better storage. Once you see it this way, the symptom makes sense. No worms in a bed often means there is no comfortable zone for them to travel through. Water running off often means the surface has sealed or dried too hard. Compost that never seems to change the soil often means it is not being held in a moist, covered layer long enough for biology to work on it. Plants that perk up after watering and then crash again may not be asking for more water. They may be showing that the bed cannot hold water steadily. That sounds like a water problem, but it usually starts with habitat. The most useful version of this method is almost boring. First, water the dry bed gently until the top few inches are no longer dusty. Second, apply the diluted dark liquid lightly. Third, add finished compost. Not a mountain of it, just enough to feed the surface. Fourth, cover the soil with leaves, straw, or clean grass clippings. Fifth, stop exposing the bed every time you get curious. Let the covered layer stay damp enough for life to use. Then repeat only when the bed is actually drying out and the mulch layer is still in place. In many backyard beds, that may mean every few weeks during active growing weather, not every few days. In cool, wet conditions, skip it. In compacted, sour soil, fix drainage and air first. In beds with a lot of fresh manure, do not add sugary liquid and hope it balances out. Let unfinished materials finish. The strange part is that the cheapest piece is not always the liquid. The cheapest piece is restraint. You do not need to buy worms for every raised bed. Sometimes purchased worms disappear because the bed was never ready for them. They are added to bare soil, dry compost, hot corners, or beds that get baked every afternoon. Then the gardener thinks the worms failed. But the real failure was asking soil life to live in a place built like a sidewalk with plants in it. If worms are already in the surrounding soil, a better habitat gives them a reason to move in. If worm eggs or small populations are already present, better conditions may let them become more noticeable. If the bed is isolated, lined, extremely dry, or filled with sterile material, it may take longer. And the liquid alone will not solve that. That is not a disappointment. That is the honest version that actually helps, because now the gardener knows what to watch for. Look for castings under the mulch, not just worms in the open. Look for soil that stays darker under cover after the surface edges dry. Look for small channels, softer crumbs, and roots that seem to move through the top layer more easily. Look for less panic watering. Look for a bed that does not swing so violently from soaked to dry. Those are the quiet signs that the bed is becoming livable again. And when a worm finally appears under that mulch, it means something different. It is not proof that the bottle worked like magic. It is proof that the bed offered moisture, food, shade, and cover in the same place. That is the real payoff. The dark bottle at the beginning looked like the secret. It looked like the thing that would wake up a dead bed. But by the end, the bottle should look smaller. Useful, maybe. Cheap, maybe. Worth trying carefully, maybe. But not powerful by itself. The real power is the covered, fed, damp layer it helps start. A dead bed does not become alive because one liquid touched it. It changes when the surface stops being exposed, when organic matter stays long enough to become food, when moisture stops vanishing by afternoon, and when soil life has a reason to risk coming back. So pour the liquid if you want. Use the cheap trick. Just do not confuse the signal with the shelter. Worms do not return to a bottle. They return to a bed that finally acts like habitat. And if the bed feeds the soil life has a reason to return.